Hello, welcome to the Comic Book Commentary. I'm Bo Leidig, and this week we're going to be talking about one of the more recently published books to be featured on this channel so far. It's Lazarus #1. So let's zoom in and take a closer look. First published in June of 2013, we see here on the cover very prominently featured Forever Carlyle, who is the main protagonist of this entire series. She's got a gunshot wound to the head, which probably is your first indication that something a little different's going on here, and it gets explained in this book. Written by Greg Rucka. Art and letters by Michael Lark. Color by Santi Aracas. Cover, art, and color by Michael Lark. The stage of Lazarus is set in a dystopian future in which world governments no longer exist and everything is now controlled by a handful of prominent wealthy families. There being three distinct classes of people that exist in this world. There are the ruling class, who are the families, the servant class, who are referred to as serfs, and then everyone else who is just referred to as waste. Basically, those people exist in, I guess, what you would colloquially call the Badlands of sort. They don't really answer necessarily directly to any of the families, but they are sort of under their control as well. It's almost kind of like a feudalism type of system, but not exactly. Due to the fact that what would otherwise be the peasant class does not include everyone who is not referred to as nobility, aka the families. We see here on the first page of the story a gunshot going off as we see our main character Forever take a shot to the chest. Two more shots ring out and she takes two more shots to the chest. Then we see that the gunman is also accompanied by a man wielding a sledgehammer and another man wielding some sort of improvised machete, it looks like. Here on the next page, we see a splash image of the three men standing over what they believe is the dead body of Forever. They turn and walk away. She is left to sit in a pool of her own blood until she suddenly awakens. It's explained that this is achieved through bioengineering. Each one of the families in this world, the ruling class, all have one member of their family who is referred to as a Lazarus. That person receives all of the training and technological benefits that the family they belong to can offer to them. So Forever has been 100% bioengineered. She's capable of healing from what should otherwise be mortal wounds. She has incredible levels of stamina and strength for her size. She is an incredibly skilled warrior. She's not able to heal to the same effect as someone along the lines of Deadpool or Wolverine. She can be shot in the head and survive it, but I don't believe that she could survive decapitation or being completely incinerated or something along those lines. Her healing ability is not quite that strong. We see then that Forever slowly gets up and rolls over. She recalls being in a lot of pain. I should point out all of the conversation that you're seeing on these pages has been between her and the doctor in charge of her care, James, that she's been recanting this entire story to. She, again, reiterates how much it hurts her every time this happens, inferring that this has not been the first time that she's been quote-unquote killed. As she gets back up and makes her way towards the men who thought they had killed her, and we see that they are in a food store vault and they were just trying to get food and water. She sneaks up behind them. One of the men realizes, the man with the gun, that she is back and right behind them and tries to turn around and shoot her again. However, this time, the gunman does not have the drop on Forever, and she very quickly begins to show the three assailants that they are very much outmatched by her level of skill as she grabs the gunman's arm, snapping it in half, and then breaking his neck. The man with the machete tries to take a swipe at her. She dodges out of the way. She dodges out of the way again. As he lunges forward to try and stab her, she jumps out of the way one more time, and he then accidentally stabs the man with the sledgehammer who was with him through the chest. This, of course, kills the man with the sledgehammer, and Forever doesn't waste any time in grabbing the hand of the man with the machete. Overpowering the man with the machete, Forever is able to manipulate his hand, turn it backwards, and thrust the machete through that man's own chest. She then recalls that she actually killed all three of them, once again reiterating to James that she killed them, and doesn't seem to be too happy about having to have done this, despite the fact that these three men initially, quote-unquote, killed her first. We then see Forever and James inside of a very high-tech doctor's office. She is very much expressing remorse for having had to have killed the men, as she stated they just wanted something to eat. James, however, says that had they been documented residents of the area, meaning the serf class, that they would have received rations from the Carlisle family and been provided for. He then goes on to reassure her that she was justified in the actions that she took, and, basically tries to play on her emotions, saying that what if she hadn't been there, and if it had instead been one of the other family members or their parents who would not have been able to fight off the men. We then see James giving Forever an injection. Despite the fact that her wounds have healed, we are given this little bit of inference that she does need constant maintenance for her body to maintain the things that it does. She then puts her shirt back on and asks James if it's, normal for her to feel the way that she does, and if everyone else feels this way after they've killed someone. James, though, tells her that it's not, and that he'll be giving her some more treatments later on after she returns from a mission to meet her brother Jonah. We get the sense here that James is trying to manipulate Forever into believing that it's wrong for her to feel remorse for killing what he perceives as enemies of their family, and that despite the fact that she believes that he has her best interest at heart, he's really just looking out for the best interest of the Carlisle family overall, as she asks him to not mention any of what they've talked about to her father or her brother, and he states that he won't and that she can trust him. But I think it's pretty safe that we can assume that this is just another one of his manipulative tactics. We are then teleported to Central California, where Harvest one of the Carlisle farming facilities, is located. As we see, it has recently been attacked. There's a large hole blown in the wall, and we can see smoke billowing out from inside of the compound. It's shown here that there are two family populated in this area. This is just temporary. There are 512 serf class and 32,500 estimated waste class humans in this area. We then see that Jonah is on a video call with none other than James, as James very immediately spills the beans of everything that he and Forever spoke about, and tells Jonah that he's worried about the emotional state that Forever is in. Informs Jonah that he gave her an injection to try and basically help her move past these thoughts, and explains to Jonah that it's only going to take if he gives her some sort of emotional support We're led to believe this is a level of pharmaceutical technology that we don't have access to at this point. This is once again supposed to take place in a future that's, we're not really sure how far into the future it is, but it is very much implied that there is a level of technology far greater than what we have access to today. The call is interrupted when Jonah is informed that his sister is about to land. He cuts the call short with James and tells James that he'll do his part, but that James needs to make sure to do what he needs to do to take care of this problem. We see the helicopter land and Forever get out, and Jonah call her name from the truck that he's stepping out of. Jonah, taking to heart the advice that he was given by James, makes no short work of displaying very deep emotional concern for Forever's well-being after the ordeal that she has been through, making sure that she's okay. Forever then starts to apologize for being late and telling Jonah that she tried to tell James that she needed to be here as quickly as possible to help with the situation at hand. But Jonah cuts her off and gives her what would seemingly be unprecedented level of affection, as we can see that Forever's face conveys that she's surprised by him giving her a hug the way that he does. And he states that he's just glad that she's all right. And the two of them move inside the facility to investigate the goings-on. As they enter the facility, they're briefed by one of the soldiers who explains to them that they have been attacked unprovoked by the Moray family, who is another one of the ruling families in this world. We see there are many bodies throughout. Most of them are the attacking soldiers, but also some of the defending soldiers and some of the serf population that was inside of the facility. As we see them moving deeper through the facility, Forever and Jonah are informed that the Moray assailants were able to get in because all of the defenses were down at the time, and the invading force made an immediate beeline towards the cold storage seed vault in the center of the facility, which houses all of the seeds that the Carlyles use for planting all of the crops that they grow. Forever then asks the commanding officer at the facility if they've run a diagnostic on the security system. He states that they have, and that it shows no sign of fault within the system. Jonah then jumps to the conclusion that this is because the system was not hacked or sabotaged by the Moray family in any way, and that they've been betrayed by someone within the facility who shut the system down. Forever doesn't want to believe that this is the case, that they've been betrayed by one of the workers inside of the facility. The commanding officer of the facility then asks if Forever believes that this attack on the facility is in any way linked to the attack that she suffered earlier. She says no, because the men who attacked her were just waist class, whereas this was a direct attack by soldiers. They then continue their conversation. She still seems a little bit unwilling to believe that they've been betrayed, but Jonah pushes the issue, saying that it's the only reasonable explanation as to how the soldiers were able to get in and know exactly where they needed to go to get to the seed vault. Jonah then states that there's only one way to take care of this, and explains to Forever that she knows what has to be done, what their father would expect of them in this circumstance, as betrayal of the family is something that is considered the highest of crimes in this world. As we see Jonah staring down Forever, and she then instructs the commanding officer to get all of the people who had security access and the ability to shut down the system and bring them into the courtyard along with their families. After gathering those with the security clearance necessary to shut down the system in the courtyard, Forever begins to address them, stating that they have determined that the Moray forces were only able to invade due to a betrayal of one of them, and that it had to have been one of them that allowed them to access the facility and shut down all of the security measures. She then informs them that they have a very strict policy on what they consider treason, and that if the traitor does not step forward and admit to their crime, that they'll be forced to execute all of them, including their children. Nobody steps forward. Jonah decides that he's had enough and begins to instruct the soldiers to line them all up and execute them. Forever interjects and tells him to wait. However, they are then interrupted by the older man, as he states that he was the one who betrayed the family and let the Moray forces in. His daughter protests and tells him not to. However, he quickly rebuts and tells her to be quiet and to let what's going to happen as he walks toward Forever and the soldiers. The old man then reiterates that it was in fact him who betrayed the family. Jonah tells him that he's done the right thing coming forward, and then instructs Forever that she knows what to do, as we see the other higher ranking employees at the facility being led off by the soldiers. Forever then escorts the elderly man out further into the courtyard by the wall. He then states one to the back of the head should be painless. However, she rebuts this and says that she knows from experience it's not, and apologizes. She then states that she's pretty certain that he's lying, and he says, why would that even matter? She said it matters because obviously she'd be killing an innocent man, and also there'd still be a traitor amongst them that they have not dealt with. He, however, rebuts her, saying that for as much as she and her siblings speak about family, they don't really understand the true meaning of the word, inferring that he's doing this because he believes it's the only way to protect his daughter and the other members of the facility who were going to be killed. Forever then puts the pistol to the back of his head and states that she's going to tell his daughter that he loves her. But then the man tells her to trust him, that she already knows that's the case. Back at the medical facility, we see that Forever is receiving the secondary treatment from James that he spoke to her about earlier. James then says that he heard about what happened at the farming facility and once again asks Forever how she's feeling, to which she just looks down and says that she's feeling fine. She just feels fine. But we're led to believe, of course, that this is not the way she feels and that she's really just trying to block out the emotions that she's dealing with, having to have killed who she believes to be an innocent man. On the next page, we see Forever Yours, which in future issues becomes the letter section for readers to write into and have their questions answered. However, that's not what it is this time. This time it's really somewhat of an essay written by Mr. Rucka explaining all of the lead up to this story being created, and also featuring some of the artwork by Michael Lark that was prototyped for the series. We see an early sketch of Forever right down here in the bottom corner. There's a lot of pages. We'll keep going because there is some more early artwork that's featured, but it's a lot of exposition that I'll just kind of breeze through. We see here 2 more pages of exposition explaining the process by which Greg Rucka came to used to create the story, how his background was originally in novels, and then he started getting into comic books. He worked for DC for a while, then wanted to do something a little bit different. Bit of a long build-up to everything, as he talks about gaining some inspiration from being around New York during the Occupy Wall Street movement, and how he got connected with Michael Lark. We see more of the prototype artwork from Michael Lark here. And Rucka explains that he had the idea of the very first page that we saw in this book with Forever lying down on the ground in a pool of blood with gunshot wounds, but he took a long time to figure out where he wanted to go with the story from there. And he begins to explain more of his disillusionment with the way that the economic system of the first world was working, and how he believed that the 1% was becoming too powerful and hoarding too much of the wealth in America. And, you know, kind of gives explanations and examples of what he's talking about, and keeps on going from there, as we'll see on the next page. We see a few more prototype drawings here, one for the cover, another one of Forever in a full tactical garb with a helmet and mask, as Rucka explains more of the ideas that he gained from things that were happening in actual scientific breakthroughs that were being made at the time, things that he was reading about in terms of advancements in biotechnology, advancements in making ways that the body could heal at a quicker rate, these type of things that he could draw on from our own present day and use them in a way that felt scientifically plausible in a future story. He states that he wanted this story to be science fiction, but also feel like it was grounded in reality, and that none of the technological advancements that the characters in the story have access to feel completely out of reach or overly fantastical compared to what we have available to us today. On the final page of the book, we see the concept art for the Carlisle family crest, and we also get some more explanation of Rucka telling us his ideas and the direction that he wants the story to go into. And while they don't plan on it lasting indefinitely, they do plan on it being a long, drawn-out, ongoing story. And then on the inside cover, we see the artwork featured on the cover of issue number 2, which, you know, looks pretty cool. I enjoy it. Strangely enough, no advertisements at all in this book. Now, to be fair, it is the first issue, therefore, you know, there may not have been any advertisers who were looking to advertise in this book, or that might be due to Greg Rucka's own personal philosophies on what he does and does not like about the current economic system, well, current for 2013, that we were living in. And that was Lazarus #1. Overall, I thought it was a pretty good book. I enjoy the Lazarus story a lot. I think it's an overall pretty well-written series. Rucka did a really good job in this issue of establishing the world that this book takes place in without having to go into a lot of just generic exposition. He paints a picture of the hardship of the society that exists in this dystopian future, and does it in a way that feels very natural and flows very well without bogging the reader down with a bunch of just factoids. It's all told through the narrative itself. And I have to commend him. Whenever you write a book that is very political and has a lot of your own personal political feelings and ideological stances existing within that narrative, you're taking a big chance, because there's always the possibility that you're going to alienate people who don't agree with those stances and then end up writing the book off. It's unfortunate. There are a lot of people, especially in today's hyper-polarized world, that can't always separate the art from the artist. And believe that if some work of fiction is not affirming their own belief system or worldview or ideology, that it can't exist or shouldn't exist, or that they won't even consider what that story might have to offer. I personally don't agree with many of what Greg Rucka's political leanings and ideologies are, but at the same time, I can appreciate this story for how well written it is and how well the characters are developed and just the overall intriguingness of the backdrop and what it is that they're trying to create in this work of fiction. And that's, I guess, one of the reasons why it doesn't really bother me so much that he and I have very different political views. It's that while his views are illustrated in the pages of Lazarus, I still see Lazarus as very much a work of fiction, even if there are some, points being made about economic inequality and other things. Overall, it's not something that necessarily is undermining the beliefs I have or the views that I have. I can accept it for what it is, as just a work of, artistic integrity, if you will. But those are just my thoughts. Maybe you're someone who, for whatever reason, doesn't want to read things that they personally don't agree with, or maybe you're someone like me who it doesn't bother, or maybe you agree with all of the things that Rucka is putting forth in this narrative and are 100% behind him. But no matter where you fall on that, it's all a matter of personal opinion, and everybody's entitled to their own opinion. If you enjoyed today's video, please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. And thanks for stopping by. Have a great day.